Everything we can see in the universe organizes from the bottom up. Because intelligence is at all levels, and within a single human cell, we've got 5 to 10 million inhabitants. Different types of proteins and structures in there, they're all doing their own thing. Repairing damage, receiving messages, sending messages, excreting waste. And it's this whole community working together. And then we end up with our body, and then we have our communities. You have the rainforest, which is a self-organizing community. Nobody's deciding how many frogs to put here, which way the river is going to go, where the trees are going to go. It self-organizes from the bottom up. The only place we don't find this is in our human society, where we think we need to have people at the top organizing the important things, rather than letting the combination of intelligences sort out the right solution. We have to have the state decide, what kind of a house you can live in, how many hours a week you can work, what structure your company is going to be. And it doesn't work. We just said, and the evidence was more and more obvious, that top-down control is not bloody well working. And that is the beauty, because from our cells in our body to galaxies, you have self-organization from the bottom up, creating stable working structures.
For millions of years, humans lived together in small, decentralized network communities of about 30 to 70 people. "10,000 years ago, something happened that changed the course of history: the invention of agriculture. Agriculture allowed people to produce food on a scale they hadn't been able to before. It allowed not just a few people, but thousands and even millions of people to live together in large societies. But humans have a memory limit, known as Dunbar's number. We can only remember about 150 people well. So in these large societies of thousands and even millions of people, we could no longer remember everyone that we interacted with. There was the rise of anonymity, and anonymity threatened the social order. This created an opportunity for strong men to arise to restore social order. These strong men instituted social systems that were top-down, centralized command and control. This kept the social order, but with great power comes great abuse. So the people that lived in these centralized societies suffered great abuses. They paid a big price. But this was the only way to organize society on a large scale. People put up with these abuses for 10,000 years, the entire span of recorded history. Then, about 500 years ago, there was another change that started turning the tide of human history back to the decentralized society that we'd lived in for millions of years. The first of these technologies was the printing press. It started with the printing press about 500 years ago. The printing press has no memory limit, and the economics of printing allowed ordinary people everywhere to cheaply record and communicate ideas across the whole world, free from the restrictions of the centralized state and the centralized church. Communicating these ideas with people freely, without censorship, inspired the first democracy movements. People started challenging the state, started challenging the church, developed their own ideas about how they could do things. But the printing press was only the first of a long series of technologies, the most recent of which are the internet and Bitcoin. The internet and peer-to-peer decentralized technologies such as BitTorrent are now enabling people to communicate without censorship. So centralized power structures can no longer control the flow of information. However, the internet by itself is not enough. We need cryptography, because without cryptography, the centralized structures can still use surveillance and censorship of what we communicate. And this impacts our freedom of speech, our freedom of thought. To have freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of action, we need privacy-enabled communication systems. So the internet plus cryptography gives us that. I refer to all these technologies put together as the technology of trust. Where human-based trust systems don't scale, technology-based systems scale virtually without limit beyond Dunbar's number. So we can once again live together in a decentralized way, but on a large scale. They will enable ordinary people to communicate, to come to legal agreements, to build products and services, and to trade without interference from third parties.
The internet is now morphing into a super internet of things. Let me say that 40% of the human race right now is up on the internet. They're using cheap cell phones and desktop computers, and they're producing and sharing information at near zero marginal cost. We have democratized communication across the planet. And just recently, the Chinese announced a $25 smartphone, a computer. That means that the rest of the 60% of the human race, much of whom are making $2 a day, in 21 days, they can finance their own smartphone, and that's going to completely democratize the communications of the planet.
With just a mobile phone, everyone is going to have access to all the world's knowledge, technologies, and products and services. So what does the world of the future look like? Imagine a Maasai warrior on the plains of Africa who has no access to the banks, the financial services, and the whole infrastructure that we take for granted in the developed world. He is cut off from the global economy. He has no bank account, no lawyer, no financial services. This severely limits his ability to generate wealth. But he has a mobile phone. And soon, using that mobile phone, He can start with a business idea, and within minutes, with a few clicks on his mobile phone, he can incorporate a legal entity, and he connects to a global transaction platform that allows him to safely and securely do business with anyone in the world, including people that he's never met, people that he cannot trust. And the transactions, the integrity of the transactions is guaranteed by the technology. This dramatically improves his ability to generate wealth. Billions of people in Africa, Asia, and South America and elsewhere are going to be raised out of poverty, dramatically improving their standard of living.
It's going to be very interesting to see how Bitcoin just grows and metastasizes and outruns and outcompetes a lot of these regulatory, centralized, trusted parties.
The combined force of these technologies will force the old, centralized, coercive monopolists to change. They will have to become competing service providers that serve the needs of all of us.
For a successful technology, reality must take precedence over public relations.